What's up guys, E-Man here, and I got an interesting topic I wanted to talk about today, and this is going to be scalping versus trend trading. So how do you know which one is right for you? Is there a right way or a wrong way to trade? We're going to go over all that, and first off, I want to just talk about what is scalping and what is trend trading. So essentially, scalping is someone who focuses on the micro moves and the micro time frames. So, they're not interested in focusing on the bigger picture or what this stock is going to do for the rest of the day. They're simply interested in, okay, what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes or 1 minute when I take this trade. And they want to take those quick profits and lock them in as quickly as possible. And trend trading is quite the opposite of that. So trend traders are actually looking at the bigger picture. They're looking at, okay, where is this stock going to head? Is it trending upwards? Is it trending downwards? Where is it likely to close by the end of the day? And they want to focus on that bigger picture, bigger meat of the move kind of trade. So they're focused on holding for longer periods of time and just capturing that bigger move and capturing that overall trend, hence the word trend trading. So we'll talk about some of the pros and cons of each style, and hopefully by the end of this video you guys will have a better understanding of which style best suits your personal needs as a trader based on your personality and your preferences. So let's dive right into it, and we'll start off with scalping and go over some of the pros and cons that come with it. So scalping is generally frowned upon in the trading industry, and that's for a few reasons. And one of those is that there aren't too many scalpers out there that are successful in this industry. And if there are, you can pretty much count them on one hand. Now, as a former scalper myself, I can tell you guys, it definitely is possible to make money scalping, but it is very, very difficult. So let's go over some of the pros and cons that come with scalping. And we'll start off with the pros, and we'll go over the most obvious one first, which is very limited exposure time to the markets. So as you guys know, as a scalper, you're in and out of trades very, very quickly. So that means you're limiting your exposure time to the market. And in turn, that means you're going to be more consistent. And that brings us on to our next point, which is having an extremely high win rate. So because you're limiting your exposure time to the market, you're going to have a very, very high win rate, above average, and it's not uncommon to see scalpers with a 95% plus win rate. You can trade in almost any market conditions as a scalper. You can make 10 cents in almost any market. Making 10 cents per share is pretty damn easy. Whether it's a slow market or a hot market, you can make money in either or. And you don't need to know much about the fundamentals of a stock. So when you're a scalper, because you're focused on such a small time frame and getting in and out so quickly, it really doesn't matter if the stock is complete trash or not. You're getting in and out so fast, you're really limiting your risk. In case the stock pulls an offering middle of the day, you're really highly unlikely to fall victim to that. So that's one of the pros. Now we'll go over the cons, and one of the cons is typically you have poor risk reward ratios as a scalper. So scalpers often have 1-to-1 ratios, meaning they're risking 10 cents to make 10 cents or risking 50 cents to make 50 cents. And often it's not much bigger than a 1-to-1 ratio. There will be a few occasions where you'll get into a scalp and it pays you maybe 2R or 3R if you're lucky, but those are very rare occasions. So for the most part, scalpers aim for 1-to-1 risk reward, and often it can actually be less than 1-to-1, whereas they're making 10 cents but they're actually risking maybe 20 cents on the trade. So another one is broker fees. So broker fees can really add up quickly as a scalper. When you're taking 10, 20, 30 trades a day, think of all those commissions adding up. Unless you're adding liquidity to the markets, you're going to be racking up those fees pretty quickly. So broker fees is something you should definitely consider if you're looking to be a scalper. They can add up really quick. Along with those small wins, they can really offset your overall gains for the day. So that brings us to also the next one, which is smaller wins. Smaller wins are just, that comes with scalping, right? If you're a scalper, you should expect smaller wins. Because you're taking profits so quickly, you're gonna get smaller moves, obviously. And the high win rate offsets the smaller wins. So being consistent, having a 90-95% win rate and consistent small winners can really rack up and add up to a nice day. But again, you have to deal with the commissions and all that, all the broker fees, all that stuff. So that's another thing to consider for the cons. And last but not least, it can lead to over trading. Now, this is the biggest one I find as a former scalper, as I mentioned myself. This one was the one I struggled with the most, the over trading. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with over trading when you're making winners, right? Everybody loves taking 10 trades a day and having them all be winners, but that's not what over trading is, guys. Over trading means you're taking trades that don't match your system or your strategy. So maybe you start revenge trading or gambling. Maybe you get too caught up in the market because you've taken so many trades for the day and you end up taking stupid trades, and then you piss back all your money, and then it's kind of like a vicious cycle where you want to make all your money back, and then you just keep scalping and scalping and scalping, and you're pretty much by the end of the day you maybe made it to break even, but your commissions are down like 200 bucks, right? So that's the biggest problem I found with scalping. It can definitely lead to over trading when you're trading that much. It can definitely skew your trading and make you go on tilt quite often. So let's go into trend trading next, and we'll talk about the pros and cons there. So trend trading is the more common approach most traders take today, and let's go over some of the pros that come with it. So typically you'll get really good risk reward trades with trend trading. So you'll maybe risk 10 or 20 cents to make 30 to 60 cents. So you're aiming for about at least 3 times your risk. And what this will do in the long run is it'll make sure that if you do end up having a big loss one day, you've had so many nice winning trades that it can make up for that big loss. So you don't have to worry about, scrounging around and trying to make back that big loss in one day, because you've had so many big risk reward trades. And bigger wins, as we just talked about, that's one of the pros as well. Bigger wins will protect your account. It's not being greedy to look for bigger wins. It's actually necessary as a trader. You want to have bigger wins so you can offset those occasional big losses that will come. Even if you're an experienced trader, you will deal with big losses. It's just part of the game. Whether you miss your stop loss or you're just trading on tilt that day, it happens. It happens to even experienced traders. So big wins are really important there. They'll help cushion your account when you do have that drawdown day, and you won't have to feel like you need to make all that money back because you have such a nice cushion. And that leads us over to quality over quantity. So trend trading really allows you to focus on quality trades instead of taking 10 or 20 trades a day like a scalper. You're focused on that quality setup that's going to provide you with big risk with minimal reward, and it can pay you almost for your entire week potentially. When you wait for these setups, they don't come very often, but when they do, they will pay you very handsomely. And another pro is less broker fees, right? So when you're trading less, obviously you're going to have less fees. Now, let's say you're taking 1 or 2 or maybe 3 trades a day as a trend trader. That really doesn't add up too much in broker fees. You're getting in and out maybe 2 or 3 times on a trade you're entering and then you're exiting. That's a few commissions here and there, but compared to scalping, you're really paying far less fees as a trend trader. So now let's go over some cons, and the number one con is you're exposed to the market for longer periods of time. Now what this can mean is you could be in a nice winning trade and holding on for that bigger move, but what can happen is the market can turn against you and then end up stopping you out. Whereas you could have locked in your profits and had a really nice day, but because you were following the trend and holding for longer periods, there's always that risk that the stock can reverse on you. And this is the number one problem with trend trading, and it's something you really need to accept. If you're going to be a trend trader, you will have trades that go against you. You can be in the money really nicely, and the trades will end up just randomly reversing trend and going against you, and it might not even make sense on the chart. It just happens, and that's just part of trading. So that's just something you really need to accept if you're into trend trading. And another point is it requires a lot more patience. So you have to be really patient with your trades, let those winners really work for you. And also you have to be really patient and sit on your hands and wait for those A+ setups to come. Whereas a scalper, they'll be taking 10 trades by the time a trend trader has even thought about taking 1 trade. So it really requires a lot of patience, and you really need to be super, super disciplined and patient and wait for those setups, and then also wait for your winners to pay you out and not take profits off too quickly. So another point is the win rate will be slightly lower than scalping. So generally as a trend trader, if you're a good trend trader and you have a good system, a good strategy, you should be anywhere in the ballpark between a 60% and 80% winning rate. And that's not too bad, right? It doesn't seem too bad, but when you're a scalper, going from 95% win rate down to 60 or 70 or 80%, that's a big leap, and you're going to have more frequent losers with this kind of style of trading. So you need to be okay with that. You're not going to have green days every single day as a scalper would, but ideally your reward will be much greater than your risk for each trade. So that takes us to our last point, and this is about fundamentals. So you always need to be aware of fundamentals as a trend trader. Now this is a con because let's say you didn't do your research and you're not too sure about a company. Let's say you're long on a small cap stock and it's grinding up all day, holding a very nice trend. And then the company all of a sudden halts their stock in the middle of the day, and then 1 hour later they reopen and the stock is down 50% because they announced an offering. And now you're stuck holding the bag because you didn't know that the company had poor fundamentals, and you could have avoided this by just simply doing your fundamental research. So this is why fundamentals, knowing fundamentals is a con when it comes to trend trading. You need to always be aware of the company's fundamentals, whereas when you're a scalper, fundamentals really don't matter to you at all. You're just trading very quick price action, and you're very, very unlikely to get yourself caught in one of these situations. So let's move on to the next slide, and the next thing we're going to be talking about is which style is right for you. So we've talked about the pros and the cons of scalping and trend trading. Now you need to ask yourself questions like, am I an impatient or a patient person? Do I prefer a higher win rate or bigger risk reward trades? Am I comfortable having an exposed position in the market for longer periods of time, or do I prefer getting in and out very quickly and limiting that exposure time? Do fees matter to me? Can I make lightning quick decisions, or do I need time to think about my trades before I take them? So if you're a patient person, trend trading is likely more for you. If you're impatient, scalping probably best suits your personality. If you prefer higher win rate trades, scalping is definitely the way to go. If you're more of a big risk reward type person and you like those big wins with minimal risk, then trend trading is more likely for you. If you're someone who's uncomfortable with exposing yourself to the market for prolonged periods, scalping is probably the way to go. If you're okay with having exposed positions in the market for prolonged periods, then trend trading is probably okay for you. Fees matter. In the end of the day, fees matter to everyone, but do fees really matter that much to you when you take the pros and the cons and you add them up? So as a scalper, you have the pros of having that limited market exposure, having that really high win rate. So do the fees really matter to you in that case? As a trend trader, you're going to have much lower fees, and it's really your decision which one makes more sense, right? Do the fees outweigh all the pros and cons? You have to decide if they really matter that much to you. And can you make lightning quick decisions? As a scalper, you need to be super quick with your executions. You need to be able to, really make those lightning fast decisions, and you need to be really quick with your hotkeys and your fingers. If you're not that type of trader, if you prefer the more slower moving action, you probably should focus more on trend trading. It gives you more time to think about the trade before it sets up. You don't have to make those impulsive, quick decisions, and it's probably a safer approach for you. So here are some skills you'll need if you want to become a scalper. Tape reading and level 2. So if you're not too familiar with understanding tape and level 2, this is a skill you really want to develop and practice because it'll help you no matter whether you're a scalper or a trend trader. It's a very valuable skill to have in the market. Tape reading is essentially going to tell you when buyers or sellers are coming in at that specific time. And as a scalper, this is their main focus, understanding the tape and seeing who's in control in that moment. Is it buyers or is it sellers? So tape reading is definitely important. Another one is quick decision making. So you need to be able to make quick decisions when you get into a trade. You need to be able to hit that button and enter the trade immediately and then exit immediately as well, whether the trade pays you out or goes against you. Because you're not using hard stops or you don't have clear stop out levels as a scalper, you're basically trading momentum. So you're going to have to stop out intuitively when the trade goes against you. And in order to do that, you need to be very quick and you need to have fast hands, which is our next point, and be good with hotkeys. So hotkeys are super important as a scalper. They'll ensure you get in and out of trades very quickly. And you need to have those fast hands. If you don't have those fast hands, you're probably immediately going to fail as a scalper. And last point is you need to have extreme discipline if you want to be a successful scalper. This isn't the typical style of trading, where you have a clear risk level and a clear reward. As a scalper, you're really trading intuitively and using the tape a lot to base your trades off of. And, when a trade goes against you, you have to have that extreme discipline to stop out immediately. And when a trade goes in your favor, you also need that discipline to take your profits off right away, because it is a scalp trade. And, if you get too patient with a trade, whether it's a win or a loss, that scalp trade can go against you very quickly. So that discipline is really important as a scalper. Now, as a trend trader, here are some skills you'll need. You'll need to have a good understanding of technical and fundamental analysis. So be very well versed in charts, different price action. Also be well understood in fundamental analysis. So understand what S1 filings are, understand what 10K filings are, what's the company's cash, all that kind of stuff. That's really important so you know what kind of company you're trading. Another one is reading multiple time frames. So being able to read multiple time frames is an invaluable skill as a trend trader. You need to understand what time frames are trending, because there's not just one time frame in trading. There's smaller time frames and there's the bigger time frames, and there's different traders looking at different time frames all the time. So you need to be well aware of what time frames are trending, which ones are important on a specific stock, and base your trades based off that. Another one is the ability to spot trend reversals. So this will help tremendously. Say you're in a winning trade and then the trade starts to slowly grind back against you, and you need to be able to spot those trend reversals in order to stop out of your trade when you need to. And they're really important to recognize these, because you can prevent a winning trade from turning into a break-even trade simply by recognizing that trend reversal and getting out well below where you need to. And another one is patience to let winning trades work. So you need to have the patience to let your winners work for you as a trend trader. You can't just get into a trade and take your profits off immediately if you're a trend trader. You need to let the trade work and give you a reason to either stop out. So like we mentioned, the ability to spot trend reversals, that's a good reason to stop out if the trend is starting to reverse on you. Or let the trade work until it reaches your final profit target. And that's really, really important as a trend trader. You really need to let the trades work and stick to your plan. If you take them off too quickly, it will skew your results in the long run. So to conclude things here, let's go over some of the traits of each style of trading. So if you're impatient, you prefer quicker profits, and you like to be actively trading throughout the day, probably best suited to be a scalper. If you prefer limited risk exposure to the market, being in and out of trades quick, and you like higher win rates over risk reward trades, and you're good at quick decision making, then scalping is probably right for you. Now, if you're patient and prefer bigger profits, and you're also okay with sitting on your hands most of the day and waiting for that perfect trade, trend trading is probably right for you. If you're comfortable with being exposed to the market for longer periods, and you're fully aware that the trade can reverse on you at any point in time, you prefer that good risk reward over higher win rate, and you're focused on the macro, bigger picture move and focused on what the stock's going to do for the rest of the day rather than the next 5 or 10 minutes, then trend trading is definitely the way to go for you. So hopefully this video gave you guys a good understanding of what style of trading is best suited for you. We went over some of the pros and cons, and there's no right or wrong style of trading. It just really comes down to your personal needs and your personal preference as a trader. And me personally, I am focused primarily on trend trading these days, but I still do include a little bit of scalping in my trading because I do feel that it has its place. And some people trade full-time, like 100% scalping, others trade 100% trend trading. And for me, I found there's good to take out of both of them. So I try to include both in my trading, but primarily focus on that trend trading and capturing those bigger moves. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you for tuning in. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and I'll be happy to answer them. Cheers.